Welcome to this special series of discussions on overlanding and all that means. I'm Andrew St. Pierre White.
And I'm Paul Marsh.
Well, here I am in Botswana, 2 days driving from Cape Town, and the fun has begun because the road, of course, is fantastically sandy. I've had to stop here and let down our tyre pressures. Now, the person doing all the work at the moment is right there, and that's Paul Marsh. Now, Paul is traveling with me to bring you a series of overlanding programs, basically a mini series, and we're going to be talking about overlanding, everything we can think of when it comes to overlanding. You know, there are so many subjects, specifically for those people that love taking their four-wheel drives and finding amazing, lonely places. And we thought, well, in order to inspire us to think of all of the different elements that overlanders are interested in, we should do an overland trip. And so here we are, bringing you the first of them from a lonely place called Jack's Pan in the southern Kalahari in Botswana. Right, tyres. It's interesting today.
We've had a great day. Now, you know that we've actually done tar road driving, some quite rough washboard, and then we've done the stick sand.
So now I was thinking, okay, we let our tyres pressures down to, we were on the hard surface, we were at 3.2 at the back,
Yeah.
we're at 2.5 at the front.
That's running on tar. Yeah?
I was
Which
running
is
on
always important. Get those pressures.
firmly.
Really, you'd really weigh the vehicle. If you were going to be accurate about it. How much weight's in the vehicle?
But I mean,
3.2?
practically speaking, nobody's going to weigh their vehicle
No,
and do a
exactly.
calculation, so it's really the look of the tyre, isn't it?
The sidewall,
And-
you know the actual sidewall, how much of a boop as we call it, or how much of a bulge it's got? That for me is critical. You look at that on the tar road, and then the other thing is how hot's the tyre getting? And
Yeah, I know you're very big on
I'm very big
temperatures.
on
Very, explain that.
Okay, so a lot of the time when people get in cars and they drive off on their four-wheel drives, they load them up full. They take a thumb suck at the pressure, okay, and speaking to you and I, we'd know roughly what our pressures would be within a very small amount, because we know how much we load the vehicles
Yeah.
by. Drive down the road for half an hour, let's say, fully kitted vehicle on a tar road, get out, feel the sidewall of the tyres. Take your hand, just put it palm onto that sidewall. Feel the front, feel the back. And just feel what the heat of the tyre, how much heat's
Now, on
generated
a
in
hot
that tyre.
day, that tyre is going to be hot.
Definitely, yeah.
But when is it a point where you go, uh-oh, it's too hot?
You're going to feel a difference between the front and the rear. So the front generally runs cooler, and the rear's carrying the weight, and you've got full tanks of fuel and water and everything. And it's when you've put your hand on and you feel the rear tyre is almost like, ooh, that's just, why is that? That's really hot.
Hot,
Okay.
coffee mug hot. Oops,
Coffee mug hot. You know, when you've got a full cup of coffee.
Yeah, and it's just
it's you know, warm cup of coffee. You're putting a good one to do actually. So generally, I try and pick up a difference, a big difference. And if people find that the rear tyre, or be it a front tyre, is running much hotter than the others, telling you something. Like your body, basically.
So it's saying to you it's either too soft
Okay, so if it's too soft,
or you're too fast for the
too
pressure.
fast. So it's basically inverse relation. It's
Okay.
running too soft. Generally, in the tar, you won't see it as much. On corrugated roads, you run a tyre too soft, quickly that temperature goes up.
All right.
So you've got two choices. Feel the tyre, you're going to slow down,
Yeah.
put a bit more air in. Now we both know that if you're going to lower the pressure slightly, we've always felt it better to drive the car. Especially from tar road to dirt road driving.
Right.
I know today it worked, didn't it? We dropped the pressures.
Well, on the way, I've been erring on a lower pressure than you prefer, and when we left fully laden, I found the vehicle was a bit vague.
Yeah.
We upped the back tyres by quite a bit, up front a little bit,
Yeah.
made all the difference.
It did, and I think, you know, that's something for people to actually be aware of. You're driving your car, and if you take notice of how the car's handling, and if the tyres are not nice and firm, and it feels like the car's actually, it's like it's walking in wet shoes.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
You're
It's just
zipping
vague.
around and
Just
it's
vague,
vague,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And just putting that pressure up that bit gives you that nice, firm, confident. Too hard is also not too good.
Yeah.
You know, if it's way too hard,
Right.
you need
Okay.
a patch that size.
Now, your favourite brand of tyres? Overlanding tyre.
In 10 years, 16 years that I've built vehicles out of England, down through Africa or around the world, BFG's performed exceptionally well. Now, I wouldn't say it's the only tyre that can do the job by any means. We've used Coopers, but I found the BFG all-terrains a superb tyre. And I judge that by people coming back and saying, how was the tyre? How many punctures did you have? Because, you know, people get drummed in looking after tyres. Those tyres are like your shoes. You don't have good shoes, you're not going to walk through bush like this. So yeah, they really did perform very well. So in this sort of environment, for most people, there's a large percentage of tar driving, dirt driving, and then you get the thick sand. So it's a compromise.
I'm terribly biased towards BFGs, and because I spent my life having punctures, and then I tried various tyres, and as tyres got better and better, of course the puncture rate got less, and until now, well, last 4 years, BFGs, not one puncture.
Yeah, but I've had the same experience with Coopers.
Okay.
You know, I've just recently, we put Coopers on this big trip we did to Russia, Mongolia, all the way through China. And we ran the Coopers.
Coopers.
Yeah, ST Max, great tyre. Sort of the all-terrain is a more aggressive look than the
all-terrain
BFGs,
here. Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful, absolutely. Really like those tyres. They perform very well. No punctures again.
Okay.
I don't have 16 years of experience because we didn't have them available in England as easy as the BFGs. But it would probably be a very comparable tyre. Australians rate them very highly.
Right.
So yeah, look, you know, those are two. You're looking for good sidewall, you know, strength in the tyre.
Do you think that a tyre that 3-ply,
Yeah.
I generally erred to pumping these up a little softer than I did the 2-ply?
Why
That
would you?
logically.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
because the tyre is, and I was doing it really on the ride feel of the tyre.
Well, you know, if you think about it, your tyre is actually part of your suspension. And I think most people don't get that. They put these great shocks on these great springs, and they forget about the tyre, which actually absorbs a lot of the shock load. So by altering your pressures, you can actually take out a lot of vibration that comes through the car on bad roads. And you just got to understand that relationship between your tyre working as part of the suspension, the spring and the shock, they need to work as a team. Those three good teammates. And you've got to treat them equally as teammates. So matching them up to work together is quite important.
Okay, but my question really is, for one tyre with a 3-ply sidewall, I might say on this particular condition with this particular load, I'd run it at, say, 2.5 bar. But with a tyre with a 2-ply sidewall, I might actually pump it up a little harder, because I've got more flex in the sidewall with a 2-ply than I have with a 3-ply.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying really is that it's not necessarily a blanket rule. That's the pressure.
No, it's not. I mean, I think also, you know, you've got to look at conditions as well.
Yeah.
Because you can be driving along the sand here in the 2 or 3-ply tyre, similar sort of pressures. And then you come across a very thick sandy bit, and you know people have got stuck there because you can just see the debris of sticks that are sitting there, and that's a huge risk to any sidewall on a tyre. You know, we're running these tubeless, aren't we?
Yes,
so
yes.
these, you know, and I prefer that because they're running cooler.
Yes.
And it's better.
Yes.
Not so easy to sort of fix. Well, it is easy to fix if you get a nail in, but if you've got to take the tyre off the rim, invariably, if you're going to do it with tie levers, you're going to need to actually put a tube in there to get it back on the rim.
Yeah.
Most times.
Okay.
So I'd always carry a spare tube and a couple of levers.
Okay, so now here's the thing. Last year when I did a trip in a Discovery 4 over Baboons Pass, I had 18-inch rims with a General Grabber tyre, which turned out to be very good, and I didn't get a puncture. But my toss-up was, if I let the tyre down, I'm going to get more grip, and I'm going to need it. Wet rocks, I'm going to need grip, but then I'm going to have this big fat boop that's going to be sliced off
on the rock
on day one on a rock somewhere. So I put them up to, if I remember correctly, 3.5 bar. So they were hard.
Now, you know, people will actually, often you've got to look, I think, at the type of terrain.
So
if it's volcanic and it's sharp, good idea.
So now in that situation, it turned out it worked.
Yeah.
The traction control was good enough to cope with the loss of traction, and it served me brilliantly there, and I didn't get a puncture, and it was puncture country.
But you had a very capable car there. You know,
Yes, but would you have done that with the tyres? That's really my question. Would you have pumped them up really hard to protect them?
In the same vehicle?
Yeah.
Yes. In the same vehicle, because I think at the end of the day, you know, you've got to look, your aim is to get through. What's the safest way through? So if you have to go through a bit slow, or if you do get stuck and you have to get your way out of it, you don't want to rip a tyre. You rip a tyre, you've gone through down to one tyre.
Absolutely. The test was to see the vehicle, to see if the vehicle could do it, not if I could, the tyres could survive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by pumping it harder, you actually made the vehicle work harder.
Indeed.
You got less grip on the rocks.
Precisely. That's exactly right.
But you also mitigated risk of possibly the sidewall being bulging out and catching on a rock. So,
exactly.
you know, in that sense, absolutely. And perhaps if you got a vehicle that didn't have those traction aids and you were going through and you had to make a toss-up again, you'd start off with a harder tyre and then you'd judge the situation as you maybe got stuck, as you would probably in sand as well.
Yeah, that is true, yes.
You know?
Start hard and then you can always come down.
Then change it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the defenders who were with me had much larger tyres.
Yeah.
I think they were running at 0.8 bar.
You know, and that does give you traction.
Which was giving them
which is
huge
great.
grip.
Yeah. And I think, you know, there's never a hard and fast rule what works, because people have different driving styles, and you know, some people will find that that particular tyre on this vehicle with this weight will tend to work a bit better. You know, in ice, you pump the tyres really hard because you want those studs, especially if they're studded.
Oh, if they're studded, you want them to break through.
Break in, so you keep.
But if they're not studded?
Well, it depends. If you're in snow, you generally drop the pressures a bit. I found that in Russia, you know, but we had studded tyres, so you know we had no choice on that. But if you didn't have studded tyres, and you've got a good snow tyre, I don't know that I'd want it too hard. You know?
My early days, in fact, my first book, I wrote that you need to pump the tyres up to get penetration through the slippery mud. I disagree with myself now.
Really, yeah.
I let them down. Yeah. I want to spread the.
Yeah, I mean, it's the footprint. I mean, the footprint is anything.
Mm.
You know, it's often too late once you've got stuck and you've broken through that crust, and then you've suddenly got down and you go. The last thing, of course, you want is down to the suspension and axle sinking into the mud.
Yeah.
Then it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think generally the vehicles are very capable. The tyres are good compared to what we used 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, the recovery equipment's very good. I'm really going to try and drive it gently to make sure I get through, and being very sympathetic to the vehicle and to the tyres and everything else really works. You know, it's easy to put your foot down and blast through, and you run some risks.
I mean, now I have counted 140 something plus minus kilometers of bush travel, just only bush travel.
Yeah.
On BF Goodriches that I've owned. I've yet to have a flat tyre. I'm still carrying 2, and I'm beginning to think, I don't know why I bother.
Well, you know, that's always a question, because people often ask me that, and they go, well, why do I need 2 tyres? And I go, well, you know, it's like an insurance policy. Why do you need insurance? You're probably never going to use them while you've got them. But the day you've got to replace a tyre because you slashed one on a stick, you suddenly now have a situation where you don't have a spare. You could stuff it with grass. I mean, hell, it could be stuffed with grass, and you could fill that tyre up, put it back on your vehicle and drive it. You know, it's not the end of the world. It gets done in Australia. They do.
Yeah, well, the grass there is more suitable than the grass here.
Tough stuff,
Okay,
eh?
yeah, good stuff.